Welcome to the Big Life Podcast, where dreams aren't just imagined, they're built brick by brick, belief by belief. Hosted by Neal Oates Jr. and Robin Lewis, this show is your invitation to discover your amazing capabilities, invest in your growth, and unleash your potential in ways you've only dreamed of. Join Neal and Robin as they dive deep into stories, insights, and tools designed to inspire you to show up big, live intentionally, and give yourself away for the betterment of those around you. Get ready to rise to what you're truly worthy of. The Big Life starts now.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to the Big Life Podcast, where we help purpose-driven leaders get unstuck, lead with belief, and grow lives and businesses that matter. Today's episode isn't about big ideas. It's about real change. It's not theory that we're chasing here today. We're after transformation. And so if you've been checking all the boxes, but something still feels off, if you're doing everything right on the outside, but questioning your clarity on the inside, this conversation is for you today. Our guest today knows that journey very well. Chris Robinson started exactly where Neal and I did. He had a calling to serve and a hunger to grow, and he joined the Maxwell Leadership as a speaker, coach, and trainer. He's a founding member. And today, we're so excited to introduce Chris to you because Chris now is the executive vice president leader of Maxwell Leadership. He is leading a movement of over 50,000 coaches and speakers and trainers around the globe. And Chris is also the author of his brand new book, From Drift to Drive, a high achiever's guide to breaking the chains of complacency. Chris is real, he's rooted in growth, and he's ready to help us to move from motion without meaning to a life of clarity, purpose, and momentum. So let's dive in. Chris, first of all, thank you so much for being here with us, sir. We appreciate you, and we are both have been blessed by you in many ways. You're our mentor for our listeners that might not know that, and you have added value to our lives. A lot of who we are and what we do and what we're about is because of you. But for our listeners, Chris, can you just give us a quick snapshot, who you are, what you do, and what matters most to you right now?
Wow. Hey, Robin, Neal, thank you so much for having me today. Truly an honor and privilege to be here with you. Robin, I just think back about our time over the years and, us seeing each other grow. Yeah, sure, I have a title, a position, etc. But, really, I came into it just like everyone else that came into the program. We now have over 59,000 members around the world, and every single one of those 59,000 members come into our program with a goal, dream, and desire primarily to help people and add value to people. So that was my objective. Hey, I wanted to add value to people through utilizing speaking, coaching, and training as an avenue to do that. And I had the opportunity to do that. And so I'm always excited to share with you. I'm excited that we're going to get to add value to people today, that people are going to hear my voice, hear your voice, Robin, your voice, Neal. And hey, I believe today we're going to make a difference and an impact for somebody out there today.
Right on, sir. Thank you so much. We're with you on that. So, Chris, as a helping our listeners to understand a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, what matters most to you right now?
Yeah, what matters most to me right now is every single day adding value to people. I mean, every single day adding value to people, that's what matters most. And, we often think in terms of, well, I don't have the opportunity to add value to people, but there's opportunities that are always around us in order for us to add value to people. We can do that by simply smiling. We can do that by opening the door. In fact, yesterday, Robin, I had a first time ever opportunity to add value to people. So I was in Atlanta. I just got done filming a couple podcasts for the Maxwell Leadership podcast. And I was a bit early to the airport in Atlanta because we couldn't get the flight moved down. And so instead of taking my rental car back immediately, for whatever reason, I have no idea why, I said, well, I'm just going to pull into this little parking lot right here. I'm just going to sit for a while and maybe catch up on some email and do some things. And, I step outside the car because it was a nice day in Atlanta, and I'm standing there. And this young lady walks up to me and she says, "Hey, excuse me, mister, you know how to change a tire?" Now, Robin, I am the most mechanically uninclined person on the planet. I mean, I just am. I can't fix anything. And so, I look at her and I smile and I say, well, I don't know. I mean, I might be able to get you started. So at that point, Robin, I'm looking around for anybody that might be more qualified than me. Now, there is nobody around. Everybody's in their car, on their phone. And she's on the phone with the person whose car it is, because she's some type of porter and she was moving these cars. And this person she was on the phone with was upset, saying, "I got to have this car. You've got to get this car fixed." And she says, "Well, hey, I got some guy that said that might be able to get me started, but he don't know if he can help me out all the way." The lady on the phone says, "What do you mean?" And then I started laughing, because that's what I do. Those of you who know me, I laugh at everything. And she hears me laughing and she goes, why is he laughing? What's funny about this? This woman needs this car. She's in dire straits. I said, well, I'm laughing because I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to try. And she says, oh, no. She's like, is there anybody else you can call? And so I slowly go to the back of the trunk, Robin, and, they do have a spare in there, and it seems to be sufficient tools to get there. And so, Robin, I have never changed a tire in my life, but for whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe I saw somebody do it before. Maybe I said, hey, between me, you, and YouTube, we're going to figure this thing out. So I pull out the tools. I turn it. It's hot outside now. It's beaming. It's hot Atlanta at this point, and I am sweating like crazy, and I'm cranking this car up with this little bitty jack. But I'm going, man, I'm adding value. I'm adding value. I'm adding value, in outside of my comfort zone, outside of something that I would not do. And I'm twisting this thing up, and I finally get the car up, and I was like, okay, well, I got you started. And I was like, well, the next step is I got to get this hubcap off. And I'm chipping at the hubcap and kind of going. And then I asked the question, how important is this hubcap to you? I just might break this thing right here. But I get the hubcap off. And then now I've got to take the thing, and I see, I don't even know the tool for it. I say the thing, that takes the lug nut wrench or whatever it is. Okay. And I'm pulling and I'm going, man, that didn't move. I'm going, I think I might be at the point. And, so I get in there and I'm jerking the car. And I am sweating profusely, Robin, and up walks a team member, a Maxwell team member. And she says, Chris, I thought that was you. You are sweating like crazy. I brought you some paper towels.
Oh my goodness.
Here I am in Atlanta at a random parking lot, by the rental cars. I'm jacking this thing up, doing what I, don't know how to do. Team member comes, adds value to me. I wipe off the sweat, and I'm like, hey, look, now I got a witness. I need a photo because none of my friends are going to believe this. So, I finally get the wheel off, and I go, okay, I got the wheel off. I was like, this can't be too much harder. I'm almost there. I get the wheel off. I get the spare. I put it on, and she goes, ooh, that spare is kind of little. I was like, hey, it's all we got. I said, it's all we got. I get that thing back on there. I get the car down, and man, I was outside of my comfort zone. I began to send that photo to a couple friends of mine. A couple of them asked for the metadata because they thought it was photoshopped. I mean, there's like no way. But Robin, the moral of the story is that I was able to add value by simply saying yes to the person that asked me. I was able to add value by stepping outside my comfort zone in a skill set that I do not have. And so what's most important to me today is adding value in whatever way it looks like. I didn't give her a motivational speech, which is what I would have rather have done. I didn't give her some money to call somebody, which I would rather had done. I didn't give her somebody else to go help out, which I had rather had done. I stepped up and lived on the other side of yes and added value. And in turn, someone came and added value to me by bringing me some paper towels to walk off. But man, that's what life is all about for me today and each and every single day. How can I add value to people?
So really quickly, Robin, before Chris goes, I don't want to miss this. So even after that experience and you being drenched out there and outside of your comfort zone, a day later, I see nothing but a smile on your face as you recount the story. And now you've done this uncomfortable thing. You've led by example. You had a team member experience this and watch this. But what does that mean to you now in the future when you get to an opportunity that is uncomfortable for you? And when you're saying, okay, I have an out, or I can move forward through this thing with the lack of tools and experience and knowledge and comfort.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And here's the thing that you understand, Neil. I was laughing and smiling the whole time. Now, part of the sweat was because it was hot. The other part of the sweat was because I had no idea what I was doing and I was nervous. It's like, I don't want to mess this thing up. And when the lady had asked, well, why is he laughing? Well, my attitude's a choice. Like, if my attitude's a choice, so I could I could have chose to just kind of hunker in my fear, and I can't do that. I don't know what to do with that. And I could have just cowered to that, or, hey, let's have some fun. I mean, it could be worse. I mean, you could be driving on the side of the road and this wheel came off and busted and you could have died today. But here we are in the parking lot. I'm going to choose to have a good attitude because we don't have any other choice. I said, between me, you, and YouTube, we'll figure this out. We didn't make it to YouTube, but hey, I smiled the whole way, had a good time the whole way. We get some photos and say, because you got to get this. I got to have the evidence. But it's a choice. And so what that does is it gives me fuel. And so now, I mean, this is how bad it was, Neil. I'm texting my wife the photos, and then my 9-year-old daughter, she says, Dad knows how to change a tire.
They know you.
Right. And I said, to my wife, she goes, that was your daughter that asked that. I said, well, she's not wrong for asking. I mean, she's never seen me do it before. But now I know that in a situation, hey, I could go and do that. Now, do I want to do it as a profession? Do I want to do it often? No, I've never had to do that in my life. But it just gives me another piece of something that reinforces that when a tough time comes, I can move forward.
That's so awesome. That is
Right
absolutely fantastic. And so I just anticipate the list, the honeydew list for Chris now changes now that we know that he has these superpowers.
No. That list is still a list of people to call and contact, Neil. That's
All right.
Hey, we don't work on our weaknesses. We strengthen our strengths. We strengthen our strengths. Don't work on our weaknesses. Let those go.
As a true leader has spoken. So really quickly, I do want to pivot quickly to talk about the book, right? And this idea of from drift to drive and then reigniting purpose. And so you're speaking directly to leaders because I know that you have this belief that all of us are leaders in some aspect, but this idea of drifting, Chris. So, and you're typically talking to high achieving leaders who have done this good thing and that are used to achieving. How do high achievers drift without knowing it or without realizing that they're drifting?
Yeah, that's a great question because drift doesn't happen. It's not abrupt. And so let me take you back to a moment. All right. So some time ago, I was driving, and this happens often, where I was driving. I was not tired. I was not distracted. I was just comfortable. And I had been on the road 100 times, this same road that I drive up and down 100 times, straight up and down 95. And there was no traffic. There was no urgency. And then I drifted. Now, I didn't notice it at first. I wasn't off course by a mile, just a few inches, but then I hit it. I hit the rumble strip. That sudden vibration that jolts you awake to go, oh my goodness, I'm drifting. It's a wake up before the crash. In that moment, I realized something, that we don't just drift on highways. we drift in life. We don't drift because we're, just not paying attention. We don't drift because we're lazy, but because we're familiar and we're stopped paying attention. We get good at what we do, and then that becomes the enemy of getting better. That's complacency, and it's more dangerous than failure. And so, my whole goal with this book is to really be a rumble strip for leaders, to wake them up, to help them identify what drift looks like, and not with hype but I want to do it with hope, and not with fluff, but I want to give them a framework, because, you weren't made to coast, you weren't made to settle, you were made to move. And so I want to show people how to go from drifting to driving and get them back on track, to bridge that gap between where they've gotten good to start moving towards their potential. And that's where the greatness lies.
It's a very interesting concept. As I heard you speaking about this, you get to realize that there are definitely times in my life where I didn't realize I may have been drifting.
Yeah.
And so it's a very interesting subject to discuss. And one of the things you talk about is that drifting is not laziness. It's motion without meaning, you call it. Motion without meaning. Can you share a time when you were in motion maybe, but not really moving forward?
Yeah, that happens all the time when we look at our areas of life. It happens all the time. First of all, this is what complacency looks like. When I look at drifting, I really think of complacency. And now I know when people think of the word complacency, they often think of laziness or apathy, but it couldn't be further from the truth. The way that I redefine complacency in the book is I call it a secret place of satisfactory success. A secret place of satisfactory success. That area of your life where you got good and good became good enough. Now, you can think about any area of your life right now. We all have it. Some place where it's good. It's not bad. It's been worse. It's good. So I don't really need to mess with that. It's a secret place of satisfactory success. Now, on the outside, you may say, hey, I want more. I want to do more. I want to be more. I want to have more. But realistically, secretly, deep down inside, it's good. That's complacency. So it's a secret place of satisfactory success. And so what we have to do is we have to recognize those subtle signs that we're drifting. Okay. So complacency, it looks like busyness. It feels like comfort, and it sounds like excuses. It looks like busyness. It feels like comfort, and it sounds like excuses. I'll give an example of this where this just happened, Robin, last week. I'm in the country of Romania speaking at an event, and a couple other mentors are there and faculty members. And one of the faculty members had came to me, and we were out hanging out on the balcony, and we were talking about different business ideas. And he shared with me a way that he's working with organizations that was crystal clear to me. I saw exactly how I can implement the resource that he was talking about. I saw exactly how it impacts people. I'm going, my goodness, I can add a whole lot of additional income by implementing this resource. But I said out loud, man, I see exactly how to do this. If I wanted to work that way right now, man, I can make a killing with this. If I wanted to work that way right now, man, I can make a killing with this. Well, I saw a clear opportunity to have more, to increase my income, to help more people. But I literally said out loud, if I wanted to work that way right now, I could see how I could use this. Now, how many opportunities come into our sphere where we say, man, I see how I could utilize this and help people. I see how I could utilize this and make income. I see that I can make this subtle change, and I see how it could work, but I'm busy right now. Oh, and in fact, he made it better, Robin. He said, man, as busy as your schedule is right now, I don't know if you'd be interested in this. So what I do, I obliged him. You know what? You're right, man. As busy as I am right now, I don't know if I want to work that way. I don't know if I want to do that, right? So it's busyness. It looks like business. It feels like comfort. I don't have to do that because things are fine. Finances are good. I'm not worried about the next meal. I'm not worried about the next, payment. I'm not worried about anything financially at all. So there's comfort there to says that I don't have to do that. And then it looks like excuses. Well, You're right. My schedule is busy. I can pull up the calendar and I can verify it. And so we want to understand and we want to identify, where we're drifting. It's comfort. You're busy, but you're not challenged. Think about this. You're busy, but you're not challenged. You say later more than now. You say later more than now. That's a identifier. You consume more than you create. Come on, our habitual, just information grabbers. Like, oh yeah, well, I'm learning, I'm growing. I'm learning, I'm growing, but I'm not doing anything, and then, you've lost energy for what once inspired you. You've lost energy for what once inspired you. And that for me was really, again, an identifier for me. When I was writing this book, I was thinking about a time that I had recently spent with John Maxwell. And I had went to go speak in the country of Cambodia with John Maxwell. And it was a big event, 2,500 people we were going to go speak to, only 2 speakers on the agenda, John Maxwell and me. I mean, come on, this is a speaker's dream.
Come on, let's go,
Right,
baby.
you and Neal Oates Jr. and John Maxwell, Robin Lewis and John Maxwell, 2,500 people. Now, before that, we went into the president of Cambodia's office. We met with the president of Cambodia. It was a day. Now I get on stage, I deliver some content, some things begin to go wrong, but I overcome it. At the end of it, there's a long line of people lined up saying, "Oh, Chris, it was so great. It was so awesome." But then at dinner, I sit down with John and I say, "John, I spoke today. Could you give me a little bit of feedback on my talk?" And he said, "Yeah." And he began to give me one thing turned into four turned into 8. We're at 10. The table starts to think that it's a brainstorming session. So they start jumping in, giving feedback and advice. And at the end of it, I say, "Thank you." And then when I get back to the room, I look at my list of all these things. And there wasn't one thing on there that I did not know or had not done in the past. But what happened was I was in a drift and didn't even know it. You see, I lost the energy to prepare like I did before to go speak at a chamber of commerce or to go speak at a Rotary Club for a free lunch. I had lost that passion and energy because why? Because I speak every single week. I speak most days of the week. I didn't need to prepare for that. What happened was I was in a drift. Drift is subtle and it often happens in the area that we're good. So if you have comfort, you might be drifting. If you're busy and not challenged, you might be drifting. If you consume more than you create, you might be drifting. If you've lost energy for what once inspired you, you may be drifting. And then if you avoid friction and feedback, you might be drifting. Okay. So, Robin, those are some things that we can do to identify this drift to take complacency head on.
So I want to jump in here, Chris. First of all, Robin and audience, I don't know if you all hear this, but he's talking about him and John Maxwell in these countries just like it was a normal Tuesday, right? I absolutely love this. And don't forget that Robin mentioned, and even Chris alluded to, when he started, he was like the masses. He was like us. He was just wanting to add value. But I know you just mentioned the identifiers, but Chris, I have a question that maybe many of our audience and our listeners are thinking, well, how do we avoid that, right? So you talk about this secret place of satisfactory success.
Yeah.
Well, how do we avoid it? What can we do? And I don't know if this is where the your framework comes in, because I know you're practical and you want to make things applicable for individuals. But I would love to just dive in there for a moment, if you would, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to identify and admit that we're complacent in some areas of our life. Okay, we have to identify and we have to admit. If we just say, "No, I'm good," I mean, you're not going to be able to make any movement. There's no steps that you can take. But once you identify it, and then now you can be proactive in your pursuit of your potential. You can be proactive in your pursuit of your potential once you identify and admit that you're complacent in the area. So as I sat there with those 10 things that John had given me, the other 5 things that the rest of the table had given me, they had identified a lot of areas, right? But I had to admit it. I could have defended it and said, "Well, I did this because of this. Well, I know how to do this." I could have defended it, but all I could say in that moment was thank you. And so I had admitted that I was complacent in the area. But now once you admit it, Now we can begin to take action. And so then that's when we go into this 7-step framework that I teach inside this book. And that first step is clarity. That first step is clarity. You have to be crystal clear on what it is that you want. You see, when you have clarity, you cannot have what you cannot see. And oftentimes when we're in a drift or we're, just kind of stuck or frustrated in life, it's because we don't have a clear vision on what we want. John Maxwell says it best in his book, The 15 Laws of Growth. There's a chapter in there. It says that unhappiness is not knowing what you want and killing yourself to get it. Unhappiness is not knowing what you want and killing yourself to get it. And when we're unclear on what it is that we want, we could be busy all day long. We can have what I call inside the book complacency myopia. Now, myopia is an optometry term for nearsightedness. And so the way that complacency myopia looks is that this is the person that is busy every single day. They've got their checklist. One week they're studying podcasts and how to become a podcast host and what equipment that they need and what's this. Then the next week, well, no, I think I need to build a website and a funnel. And then now this week they're building the website and the funnel. And then the next week they say, well, maybe I need to do something different with video. So now I'm doing all this research on video. They are busy every single day, but they have no idea where they're going. They have complacency myopia. Now, on the flip side of that, you have complacency hyperopia. Now, hyperopia is an optometry term for farsightedness. This person, they have the big vision, the big goal, and man, they talk about it all the time. Well, I'm going to do this one day. I'm going to do this one day. But they refuse to do anything today. They don't know how to take the first step, don't want to take the first step. But boy, they can see the big vision clearly. So our goal is to get crystal clear and have 20/20 vision to where we can see far enough but close enough to know how to take that first step. And so the question that you have to ask in this particular chapter is, what do I want? Because when you clear the slate of everything else that's going on in your life that's keeping you busy, you got to ask yourself, what do I want? Now, a real quick litmus test on how this works in our life is I want people to do a quick test. I would imagine the listeners that are listening today, they're goal setters. And Neal and Robin, I know you all are goal setters. And so here's what I want everybody listening to do. Those goals that you set at the beginning of the year, I want you to go back and pull out those goals if you can find them, first of all. Let's start off. If you can find them, I'm going to give that caveat, okay? Because they're buried somewhere for many of you. We're halfway through. It might be a month through when you're listening to this rebroadcast, whatever the case may be. They're somewhere. Find them. Okay. Then now what I want you to do is I want you to take your to-do list from the last couple days, and I want you to set it right beside your goals from the beginning of the list. And I bet Neal is already shaking his head. That to-do list looks crazy in comparison to where you said that you want to go.
Yes, sir.
Because you lost clarity in what it is that you wanted. So first step, when we want to break out of complacency, number one, we got to admit it. But number two, we got to get clear on what we want that next thing to be. So for me, that next step was, man, I don't want to squander this gift of communication that I've been gifted and this skill set that I've developed over these years. I've got to get crystal clear on developing myself as a communicator again with the same fervor, passion as if I was starting over from scratch again. So that was my starting point. What do I want? I want to be a world-class 1% of 1% communicator, and this is the path that I got to go to take it. But I had to be clear on that first.
That's good, sir. Robin, what you got for Chris? Because now I gotta take some notes, man.
Yeah, there's so much in that. So one of the things that John is known for saying is that experience is not the best teacher. Evaluated experience is, right? And so talking about goals, like I actually was on a call recently where I was suggesting to people, we're in the middle of the year. It's time to look back. And Chris, if I can be honest with you, there's one goal. I had 3 major goals I set, so I'm going to be transparent. One of those goals, I looked and I said, Robin, you're kidding yourself. I mean, there's one of those goals where I haven't really done much towards actually making it happen. So what you just said is hit me right between the eye.
Right.
And it's so true. And it's gold for our listeners. So the idea is sometimes we can allow things to get in the way. We get distracted or we drift, as Chris is sharing. So the book is called From Drift to Drive. It's coming out in September. We didn't mention that, but you can go and pre-order it. Yeah, there you go.
There we go, right there.
Coming out in September, and you can pre-order it, and we're going to give you some of that information a little bit later on. Chris, there's so much to talk about today. One of the things I want to just touch on, though, is that you're a father of 6.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that in and of itself is amazing. That changes how you view leadership and legacy, I'm sure, right? How has being a dad and a man of faith reshaped your view of success and drive?
Right. Well, being a father of 6 and a person of faith is that, it tests your faith. Having 6 kids. Oh, man. It tests your faith having 6 kids. It's a lot. I'm fortunate to have an incredible wife that, has always been in support of my goals, dreams, and visions as a communicator. But with my children, I would say that it's really helped me want to make sure that I always keep the gap between who I am on stage and who I am at home as close as possible. And I've been around a lot of people and, met some of our, book heroes. Those type of people that, you love their books. And then when you meet them, you're going, ooh, I love their books. What I want to do is I want to be the same person on stage as I am off stage so that there's no gap in between, as close as I can possibly get. There's got to be a gap, okay? But I want to get that as close as I possibly can. And so being a father, it keeps that, I guess, humility there. It keeps that, realness of, man, I go through stuff every day just like everybody else. I got kids that pee on the toilet, don't pick up after themselves, leave trash, on my steps, the random stuff that they do. When I walk in and I may have just came off a stage or meeting the president and I walk in and they do not care. It's dad, let's do this. Or dad, I'm walking over all types of stuff to get to them. And so for me, it's a great joy to be able to help them grow and develop. And I guess what it's really taught me about leadership is that repetition is the mother of all skills. Come on, how many times we got to tell them? I got to re-raise them every single day. So I love it.
It's
So
funny,
really
I think
quickly,
a lot of
I do
leaders.
have a question just on that to follow
Yes.
up. So you talk about being a parent coming off stage, going back into the house. You mentioned earlier how you could use excuses or your calendar. Now, some of our audience, they're going to identify with the busy Chris, right? The one who is going to use that calendar as an excuse. And they're going to say, I'm driven, I'm ambitious. Well, how do we chase and we do this thing called drive and be driven and have this big life where we want to empower and equip people, but we don't burn out, so we still have something to give to those people that are in our lives, to our employees, to our colleagues? So how do we be driven but avoid burnout?
Right. Well, I think that's the nuance and how you said that is really the key. The nuance is, how do I drive and have enough left over? You've got to invert that. And what I mean by that is that one of the best decisions that I made when I started, this path of coaching, speaking, training, and I wanted to pursue as a keynote speaker and coach, was that I said that I was going to build this business around my family, not my family around my business. So that's the inversion that you have to make. I'm not trying to give them my leftovers. I'm trying to give them my first, my middle, and my leftover. And this business is just a part of it. And so before we do anything, my big block calendar at the beginning of each week and at the beginning of each month, my executive partner and assistant, she sends my wife my schedule for the month. And then now I go over this with my wife to go, okay, these are some of the big block things that I'm going to be gone for. What are the big block things that we have as a family that I need to shift some of these things around and or miss? And so I made a decision years ago that when I made that decision to build it around my family and not around, not around the business, that means that, hey, if there's something on my calendar and there's a big little league baseball game, how big can a little league baseball game be, right? If there is a big gymnastic meet, how big could a little gymnastic meet be? If there's something big in the eyes of my family, that I'm doing everything I can to rearrange the business around that versus I've got this, and so I can't make it to that Little League baseball game. I mean, I've turned down thousands and tens of thousands of dollars over Little League baseball games, over track meets, over gymnastic meets. Why? Because I've got a small window of time where I can be there as that model and example to be cheering them on, to help develop them and guide them, that I'll never get back. I can always get back the money, but because of not chasing dollars, I believe that dollars have chased me because I inverted that equation of not trying to give them my very last.
Good stuff.
Wow.
Thank you for that.
Yes, and Chris, that's an area where you have helped me quite a bit. I wish we had the time today to talk about the 5 questions that I ask myself every day that I learned from you, for example, to help me to kind of stay in that focus. But it's good. It's good for our listeners out there to hear that you can be driven, you can be the leader of this tremendous organization, making an impact, and still keep your priority. And that's a great example that you've shared today, Chris. Chris, do you want to dive into a little bit more into the book a little bit? I know one of the things that you started to touch on is you have a 7-step framework.
Yeah.
And you might not be able to share all 7, and you shared a couple of them already, but could you walk us through a few of those key steps and why they matter?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll walk through the 7-step, and then we'll come close to a close because I know you guys are getting close on time. But this 7-step framework. A lot of people say, "Well, Chris, you don't have to share them all." Well, I want to share them all because I want I want people to have the steps. I want the steps to be known. I want them to be used. I'm not trying to keep it a secret. Now, I want to be able to touch them. You got to get the book to actually get the nuts and bolts. You want this practical application handbook. This isn't just a read. This is a handbook. This is a guide to break the chains of complacency. So this book is not just for reading, but it's also for reference to help you go back to this loop over and over and over again. So the first step is clarity. The second step is gathering. So now that I was clear that, hey, I want to, and this works for everything. All right. Now this works for everything, whatever you're trying to achieve. I'm going to give you the example as me as a communicator, but hey, this is also the exact same framework I used to become a certified teaching pro as a pickleball player. Okay, the same steps. All right. I'll give you the example. This works for every area of your life. So I was clear, number one, that hey, I want to be a better communicator. So the first thing that I did was I went back to gathering, which is the second step. And gathering is learning purposefully and collecting insights and experience and lessons that align with your desired direction. So it's gathering information. So the way that looks is you want to gather information through books, videos, audios, courses, conferences. Books, videos, audios, courses, and conferences. So I'm gathering information is the next phase on this specific topic. Did the exact same thing with pickleball. Played pickleball the very first day. 2 days later, Robin, I'm in a clinic because I was clear. I like this game. I want to get good at this game. And then I began gathering information. I began gathering books. I began watching videos. I began listening to audio. I began going to courses on playing clinics on playing pickleball. It worked. I started gathering information. But then the third step is filtering. And that's really separating the useful from the distractions. Separating the useful content from the distractions. And so the way that filtering looks and the way that filtering works is it's layered learning. So what I'm trying to do in this particular step is I want to line up all of those things that I just gathered. Right now, Neal, tell me if you've ever been guilty of this. You've been reading a book on one topic. You're watching videos on another topic. You're listening to audio on another topic. You're taking a course on a different topic.
Guilty.
We've all done it. But think about this. When we filter and we line everything up on the same topic, same direction, and come into alignment with what we're reading, what we're listening, what we're watching, what we're attending, now we streamline our path. And so I did that with communicating with John. I got back into that rhythm. I'm only focused on this right now. I'm not focused on anything. I'm not reading anything else. I'm not listening to anything else that's not on communicating. I'm not reading anything else, listening to anything else that's not on pickleball, right? And so I've lined it up and I've layered my learning. The fourth step is guidance. And that's getting wisdom from mentors and voices to help you navigate through challenges and refine your journey. would not be where I am today if it were not for mentors in my life. So again, what I do, I went out and I began to get another mentor. I went back to an old mentor, Roddy Galbraith, began to critique my video footage again. I began to coach with the comedian Michael Jr. to help me with communication. All right. I began, in pickleball. I had pickleball coaches and pros that I went and sought out to go and learn from these pros in pickleball. And then step 5 is relationships, getting in the right room with the right people. That is so important. That's how Robin and I met. And, he shared, right before we started about one of the ways that I helped him out years and years ago. This had to be 10 years ago. And he says, well, Chris, do you remember it? Well, yeah. I said, Robin, we were standing in the hallway. You were against this pole that was right there. We were heading in there and we were talking for quite some time. We were in the right room. It was a relationship. We're peers. It was just peers helping peers. And I was always looking to get an environment with people that are moving that direction. So you could be inside the room with a lot of great, successful people, but there's something special that happens when you get in the room with people that are all moving in the same direction.
Yes, sir.
The next step is action. You have to take action. You can turn plans into progress by consistently taking intentional steps to create momentum. They don't have to be big steps, but they have to be steps. And so you have to take action. Nothing's going to happen without action. So you cannot be mad about the results that you have from the work that you didn't do. You cannot be mad about the results that you have from the work that you did not do. You have to take action. And the 7th step is that we have to evaluate. And that's taking time to reflect on the results through self-assessment, to help you stay aligned. And then what that does is that gives you clarity again, a clearer vision to go back to those 7 steps again at a faster pace. If you want to break the chains of complacency, these are the 7 steps to do it.
Wow, Chris, that's gold. Chris, I want to ask you real quickly. Did I hear you right saying the other day that you actually teach these steps to your kids?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we teach them. So it's condensed for them. Okay. It's condensed for them and I'll condense it for you for them. All right. So 2-step process in order to grow in any area. Okay. Learn a little bit, do a little bit, learn a little bit and do a little bit,
I can do that. Come
Right.
on, Chris. Thank you. He broke it down for the baby in the group. I
Right.
love it. Come on, sir.
All right. Be clear on what you want, then learn a little bit, then go do a little bit. You don't have to gather a whole bunch of information. Just get a little bit of information, then go do something with it. That's the easy way to move forward. But in order for you to grow in any area of your life, you only need 3 things. And this is the way that I teach to the kids. You need knowledge, meaning that you have to have some type of base knowledge of what you're doing. You need experience, means that you have to go do something with it, but you need a coach and a mentor, somebody else that's done it that can guide you. And if you do those 3 steps, this is how I break it down for the kids. I teach them, hey, you need 3 things in life. All right. No matter what you're doing. For baseball, what do? We need knowledge. Okay. He's got to consume books on baseball. He's got to watch videos on baseball. Right. What do we need? We need a coach or a mentor. We get that. All right. What do we need? We actually have to do something. You got to go out and he's got to do the work of hitting balls, fielding balls. And so I'm trying to simplify this for them to show them that, hey, this is the way to move forward in life.
And Chris, you shared the other day, I think it was at a Maxwell conference where one of your sons, his goal was to hit a home run.
Yeah.
Can you just share that real quick?
Yeah. So David, he's my 12-year-old. He was going to Cooperstown, New York. And so Cooperstown, New York is this dream just camp for 12-year-olds. And he wasn't just going for 1 week, he was going for 2 weeks. And he was going to play at Cooperstown Dreams on week 1 and then Cooperstown All-Star Village on week 2. And about 40 days out, he says, man, he goes, he had hit a couple out in practice, and he was like, when I get to Cooperstown, I want to hit a home run. I said, okay, well, great. Let's prepare for it. Every single day that ends in day, what I want you to do is I want you to check off what you read. I want you to check off what you watched. I want you to check off what you did. And so he had a journal that he kept for us to be able to track. Is he doing the work to get there? And I said, but there's one caveat. If you don't do something that day, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But I want you to be honest that day, and I want you to write out just this one sentence. He said, well, what's the one sentence? I said, I want you to write out one sentence if you don't do it. I want you to write out, I did nothing today.
Ouch.
Now, I mean, this is hard. I mean, this kid, one day he missed some stuff. And when he had to come face to face with writing down, I did nothing at 9 o'clock at night, I would see him sprint out the house. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna go get some swings in. Now, it wasn't his very best, right? But he was going to get something in to avoid the fact of writing down, I did nothing. But think about, again, going back to the goals that you had at the beginning of the year. Every single day that ends in day, are you doing something, anything towards it? Or do you have to write the phrase, I did nothing today?
Come on, sir. You hurting us today. You helping, but it hurts.
Wow. And so, sir, continue. Tell it the rest of that
Yeah.
story.
So David, he did the work, and then we got to Cooperstown, and it was in the second game. He hit his very first home run ever, hits the scoreboard. Then the next up at bat, he hits another one the other direction on the field, back-to-back home runs for his first and second home run in Cooperstown. He goes on to hit another one a couple games later. He had a phenomenal week, but it was all pointing back. I now could go back and say, hey, you have that result because of the work that you did. And what it did was it strengthened that process to understand, okay, I've got to do the work.
Wow.
Man, that's an amazing story there.
So powerful, Chris. And so what it does is it encourages every one of us to know. That's why Neal and I can say, that's why I can say to my family member, I believe in you and you have what it takes to make it happen. And Chris is laying out for us. And obviously, the 7-step process in the book is laying out for us what we need to do to hit home runs in our lives. And we all have what it takes. It's just a matter of doing it. Right, Chris?
Yeah, that's right.
I did nothing today, or I did something.
Right.
What a conversation, Chris. Thank you so much for coming by today. And to our listeners, Chris reminded us today that drift doesn't always look like a failure. Sometimes it might look like winning, but winning at the wrong thing. Sometimes it's just getting complacent in what we're doing. And if that hit a home run for you today, we want to encourage you. You're not broken, you're just drifting. And there is a way back to clarity and purpose. And so we want to encourage you to make sure and grab Chris's book. It's called From Drift to Drive. Hold it up again, Chris.
Yeah, you
For
got
those
it.
who are watching by video, we're actually holding it up. You can see the book, and you can also check out his free webinar. Chris shares a little bit more in the book, and you can get all this at Drift to Drive book, and that's Drift and then the word TO, Drift to Drive book.com. You can order the book there. You can connect with the free webinar there. Am I correct, Chris?
Yep, that's correct.
And we'll have other information in the show notes of how you can contact and get in touch with Chris. But Chris, is there any other way that you'd like to share that they can connect with you?
Yeah, so obviously at chrisrobinsonspeaker.com, chrisrobinsonspeaker.com, and then, of course, pick up the book at drifttodrivebook.com.
That is awesome. And we ask you, our listeners, if this episode has encouraged you, share it with one leader that you know who may be grinding, but might need a little bit more clarity. As you share the episode with others, it helps us to add value. That's really what Chris said. Why Neal and I do what we do here, is to add value to you so that you can add value and empower others. And so you received some gold today. And so please share this with somebody else so you can add value to them at the same time. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected as we continue helping you to lead with belief and grow with purpose and live a big life. Before we close it out, Neal or Chris, anything to add, anything to say?
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Chris Robinson. They say you don't want to meet your heroes. Well, that is a lie, because I've met one of mine today. And I am better for it, and I'm encouraged. So I just want to say thank you, not only from me, but from my family, because they're going to be better for it. And then thank you on behalf of our audience, because even if they're hurting with some of the challenges that you put out there to us, I know we'll be better for it. It's like that medicine. So thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you all for having me. Always an honor and privilege to see you. Look forward to continuing the journey with you.
Same here, man. Thank you. And to our listeners, until next time, keep going. Your gift is needed. Unleash it. Let's go.
Unleash it. Let's go. Take care, family.